When it came to celebrations, Thorne despised crowded places. She didn't like people. Listening to their endless babbling frequently prompted her to just stare into the void as if she were in a trance. Bored of the mundane small talk, disgusted by the two-faced gossip. But most of all, pity. Pity for the folks who didn't know when to stop talking, given a bounty of social cues that no one was even remotely listening anymore. Rather, just the occasional, "Oh wow," and nodding of the head. Thorne really just came here for the food. And what kept her staying was the food. It was heavenly. The meat was tender, marinated, and roasted to perfection. There was a subtle but distinctive seasoning akin to the fresh gardens of Italy itself. The rice melted in her mouth, and the vibrant, flavorful salad added an essential crunch. She finished off her generous-sized meal with a toasty, warm drink of chai. Ah, she thought, if only I were eating this feast in a secluded, cozy cottage hugged by tranquil, fall-esque nature. The type you see when you Google beautiful forests in the fall. It was getting late. The restaurant was more saturated than before, with people coming in herds. She paid the bill and left a fat tip because she really enjoyed the food and steadfast service. Before she exited the building, she took a quick run into the restroom to fix herself up. She knew that if the meal was impeccable, she'd most likely lost all sense of manners and time itself while eating it. And right she was. One glance at the mirror, and she looked like she had intentional Halloween makeup on. Food stains were splattered all over her face. Her patted down waves are a staticky mess now. She cleaned herself up and went to get some paper towels. Then something hit her. An oh shoot moment. Her purse. She left her darn purse at the table. Her heart was pounding faster than lightning speed. She bolted out of the restroom, expecting the worst, but still holding on to the sliver of hope that with all of the traction, her belongings would just go unnoticed. She got to her table and her heart sank to the pits of hell. It was gone. She was without a wallet. Her wallet stored her life practically. Her cards, IDs, the extra pocket money. How can she be so careless, so irresponsible? She had to act fast. She quickly logged into her bank app and froze her immediate account. Her other account passwords were saved on her laptop, which was home. She then called 911 and reported the incident to both the local authorities and the restaurant managers. The employees sympathized with her and offered to provide any information. It's the year 2022, she said. There's got to be high-quality footage of that thief, right? The owner of the restaurant played back the footage of the time she departed from her table. She was eager to see who the shameless, spineless person that so easily snatched the bag that stored her life. To her dismay, the place was so crowded that although the bag was visibly snatched off the tabletop, the individual was protected behind a shield of other folks. They were probably short, to their advantage, because they camouflaged well in the crowd that appeared to merge and mold together in the footage. The thief, terrifyingly, seemed to have more experience. They didn't immediately exit the building. If they did leave, they made sure to appear as if they were part of one of the large groups of families, friends, and acquaintances that flowed out. He or she concealed her purse well, because it was not spotted after the table scene. There were no other cameras outside the area. Once she got back home, her mind started racing. She already wasn't an optimistic individual, and her anxiety could consume her. She could hardly contain herself. She quickly opened her laptop and saw 5 ATM transactions from her credit card already, $100 each. Promptly, she reported the fraudulent transactions and started the process of attempting to close the rest of her accounts. Her emails started pinging. Her eyes opened wide. Major banks and mega retail stores have already started sending her emails, thanking her and approving her new card accounts. For her existing accounts, she started receiving notifications that her emails, passwords, and mobile phone numbers were changed. She immediately froze her credit and filed a federal identity theft complaint. She knew these types of things happen, but she didn't know that they would happen to her. And on Halloween night, in a frenzy, she started to leave a lot of voicemails informing them of the incident. It was well past business hours, and the robotic automated messages were irking her to no avail. She found herself at a major disadvantage because some of the institution's automatic menus did not let her proceed without an account number. She already knew that this was going to be a lengthy and tedious ordeal. The subsequent months were flooded with daily phone calls, most of them automatically redirecting to robots. She seemingly had to fight her way to even be directed to a human being to get the fraudulent accounts closed. The operator was astonishingly difficult. He was quizzing her, asking her if she really was who she said she was. Dozens of questions were being darted her way, demanding that she give out the names of any person she's ever associated with, and all the street names near their address. At last, she thought she was getting somewhere, and the light at the end of the tunnel was near. Until all the mail that requested further information started to go to another address. After the countless back and forths with the authorities and how time-consuming it was to just speak to someone, Thorne realized she was on her own to investigate. The first clue was the address. She studied it. It was located in an area she actually grew up in. That wasn't a red flag, though, she thought. Anybody could live there. But the closer she looked, an uneasy feeling began to linger in her stomach. It was a one-room apartment, literally adjacent to her childhood home. Her brain started fogging up. In the memory department, she was looking for the one regarding her early days. Everything seemed clustered in there now. The hard thing about growing up is that early recollections begin to fade. It was late outside, and a strong, aggressive rain began to pelt the windows, as if it were trying to distract her from thinking. Suddenly, she was taken back to another time zone, the early 80s. 11-year-old Thorne was walking into class. The teacher was in the middle of introducing the new student, Glinda, an orange-haired girl with long, curly locks. She was side-eyeing Thorne, her icy blue eyes piercing her soul. Thorne was a quiet kid and didn't have any friends, but something clicked with these two girls. They got along quickly because they had a lot in common. But as the months passed on, Thorne started noticing a strange trend. Glinda was starting to wear the same clothing as her. Thorne brushed it off. She probably just admired her and wanted to be like her. That was flattering, right? Her positive thoughts were drowned out soon when Glinda started to copy her every move. Thorne got a side salad with her lunch, so did Glinda. Thorne started playing guitar, so did Glinda. Now it was just infuriating, obvious, and embarrassing. The last straw was when Glinda dyed her hair raven black, wore brown eye contacts, and even altered her voice to imitate Thorne's. Yeah, they became friends because they had things in common, but this is overboard. During an attendance call one period, Glinda even said "here" when Thorne's name was called. Thorne got an eerie, dreadful feeling that Glinda was trying to replace her. Spooked out and furious, she confronted her. "Can you stop copying me? It's getting really weird, and I'm afraid that if this persists, I'm no longer going to be your friend." The two girls were face to face, and for a couple of minutes, there was just radio silence. Then, Glinda's entire face scrunched up and twisted, bearing a striking resemblance to the demon from hell itself. "I am you." She spoke in a hybrid, whisper-hissing manner. The night was alive, and the quivering trees casted shadows of strange shapes and sizes. It could have been the lighting, but where Glinda's eyeballs should have been looked replaced by empty sockets, a dark abyss behind them, a void unable to be quenched. Thorn felt an intense, throbbing headache and smelled something she never experienced before: death. It was ethereal. The miasma of decay was so apparent that she felt this was indeed going to be the end for her. She ameliorated her words. Look, it's flattering that you want to be me, but I became your friend because of your unique qualities. Now it's as if you want to be me. In response, Glinda let out a blood-curdling scream, and Thorn blacked out. When Thorn regained consciousness, she was lying near a pond. The moon was a lamp in the sky, casting a spotlight on the scene unfolding in front of her eyes. There was Glinda, submerging herself into the pond. She had an innocent, sad look to her face, quite a contrast to the imp-like demeanor she portrayed just moments before. She was crying as the pond swallowed her. Thorn devastatingly started to call for help, pleading with her to stop, but she was gone. The next day of school, Glinda wasn't there. Her whereabouts were completely unknown to the school officials. Acquaintances, authorities, and members of the community knocked at her door. Her house, adjacent to Thorn's. No one answered. The door was kicked open. Emptiness, as if no one ever lived there. Shrouded in complete mystery, the officials left it at that. Rumors spread all over town. They couldn't afford to live there. The girl had issues and had to be taken to another school. They committed fraud and had to leave the premises. Anything was plausible, but no one knew what Thorn knew. Glinda drowned herself, she thought, but if I tell anyone that, they would ask me why I didn't do anything to save her. Or worse, they would think that I murdered her. So for the rest of her life, Thorn kept a low profile. She never mentioned what she witnessed. In fact, as cruel as it sounded, it was just a relief that she didn't have to see Glinda again. She was a nuisance. She was trying to steal her darn identity. Good riddance, she thought. After what seemed like hours, Thorn finally stepped out of memory lane. Wow, she thought. I was such a terrible human. How could I be so selfish, so vile? That little girl drowned and I just kept it to myself? What in the burning hell was I thinking? But what does she have anything to do with my identity being stolen at this very moment? She was gone like 38 years ago. Suddenly, she started to hear her staircase creak. Thorn looked up. Who's there? I got a weapon, stand back! Whatever it was revealed herself. A disheveled-looking woman with black dyed hair stared at her from above the stairs. One hand held a chainsaw, the other what looked like a seaweed. Without hesitation, she crippled and lunged at Thorn, letting the automatic chainsaw do its thing. The house let out bloody screams and then silence. Thorn's body was dragged to the little pond in the middle of the forest. We really reap what we sow, don't we? Glinda said. Don't worry. I'll keep your whereabouts a secret, just like you did mine. She smiled, and her smile reached both ears almost, letting out a chuckle. Took me 38 years to be you. Well, 38 is better than 39. Glinda walked back inside the house. That was a lot of work. I need some warm tea. Man, I was stupid for not drowning out that banshee's screams. A sudden knock on the door startled her. She opened the door easily, though, putting on a calm persona. The local detectives were at the door. Hi, I'm just following up to see if there have been any updates with the fraud case going on. I know it's been months, but I'm willing to help. Oh, and you are Thorn, Glinda said with a cheerful, warm smile. And I want to tell you that the storm has settled down now. You can drop the case. I got my identity back. Hope you guys enjoyed this little Halloween story I made. And I also hope you guys had a beautiful weekend. Looking forward to reading your comments. Please like, share, and subscribe for more interesting content.